I stirred from slumber before the first light, as was my custom. The stillness of the house enveloped me, a heavy silence that echoed the unspoken yearnings within. I rolled onto my side, yearning for the warmth of the rain, yet all that greeted me was the chill of empty sheets. Weeks had passed since she last lay beside me, and the emptiness was palpable. Initially, she found reasons to distance herself, feeling an overwhelming heat, a restless spirit, craving the freedom to breathe. Yet in this moment, she felt no need to articulate her feelings. I sat up, my fingers grazing my skin, my gaze fixed on the vacant space beside me. The weight of my wedding ring pressed down on me, a silent reminder of a truth my heart was reluctant to acknowledge. As I descended the stairs, the aroma of brewing coffee filled the air, stirring something deep within me. The aroma enveloped the kitchen, embracing me like a long-lost secret yearning to be uncovered. Elena once found joy in the aroma of fresh coffee greeting her each morning. Now she hardly dared to reach for it. The soft sound of footsteps echoed behind me, stirring something deep within. In that fleeting instant, my heart soared, whispering that perhaps today held a different promise. Perhaps she'd greet me with a soft good morning, or perhaps her smile would light up the day. As the dawn broke, I whispered a soft greeting. Silence envelopes everything. She glided by, her indifference cutting through the air, leaving me feeling invisible, as if I were merely a part of the background. As she opened the fridge, the cool air seemed to whisper secrets, and I couldn't help but notice the way her fingers brushed against the bottle of water. She glanced at her phone, a fleeting moment that felt charged with unspoken tension. Her fingers danced swiftly across the screen, scrolling and typing, completely absorbed in a connection that felt distant from my own. I lingered in the shadows of anticipation. Just a fleeting look, a whispered promise. Silence envelopes everything. Elena, a name that stirs something deep within, a whisper of longing and unspoken dreams. I ventured once more. She let out a deep, longing sigh. I must prepare myself. That was the moment. Avoiding each other's gaze. There is an absence of warmth. There was no gentle brush of her lips against my cheek. A simple gesture that once flowed effortlessly, now lost in the shadows of what once was. I exhaled softly, releasing the weight of unspoken thoughts. It felt as though I had faded into the shadows of my own existence. And the most heart-wrenching aspect? I found myself lost in a whirlwind of feelings, unable to grasp the reasons behind it all. I found myself lost in the echoes of the past few months, yearning to uncover the instant when everything changed. Yet it remained absent. No significant conflict, no intense revelation, only separation, and I found myself lost, unsure of how to bring it to an end. That night, I found myself in solitude once more, gazing up at the ceiling, lost in a whirlwind of thoughts and unspoken yearnings. The burden on my heart intensified. The facade of normalcy was becoming unbearable to maintain. And somewhere deep within, a quiet voice murmured, "What if this is the conclusion?" I once thought that love whispered in melodies only the heart could hear. The tenderness in Elena's voice as she whispered my name, the gentle laughter that danced between us over secrets only we knew, the sweet melody of her humming along to the radio while preparing dinner. Now, love had transformed into an echo of unspoken yearnings. The gentle murmur of the shower stirred me from my slumber. She had risen before I could even stir. Such moments were once a distant memory. Elena cherished those precious moments in bed, cocooned in her blankets, lamenting the thought of facing the day ahead. There was a time when I would surprise her with coffee in bed, savoring the sound of her sleepy voice whispering, "Thank you, babe." Yet here I was, completely absent from the fabric of her daily life. I lingered on the edge of the bed, my gaze fixed on the bathroom door, a whirlwind of emotions swirling within me. The door was ajar, allowing tendrils of steam to escape into the dimly lit bedroom, blurring the reflection in the mirror that faced me. My reflection was a mere whisper, yet I lingered in the shadows, a haunting presence of what once was. As she emerged, her eyes avoided mine, leaving a heavy silence that spoke of unspoken longings. With a sense of urgency, She clutched the towel around her, her heart racing as she approached the closet, a world of hidden secrets waiting within. "Morning," I whispered, my voice trembling with anticipation, as I gauged the depths of unspoken longing. Her response was a mere whisper, perhaps a morning greeting or simply an exasperated breath escaping her lips. I ought to have released it from my grasp. I should have embraced the reality of this new existence. Yet I found myself unable to do so. I stepped into the closet after her, drawn by an irresistible pull that ignited a fire within me. "Elena, please, I need to hear your voice," she breathed out with a mix of urgency and longing, her fingers brushing against the fabric of the blouse as she pulled it from the hanger. "This moment feels like a distraction I can't afford. What is the moment truly meant for? Shall we engage in a dialogue? A fleeting instant of recognition?" I moved in, my voice dropping to a whisper. I'm lost in the whirlwind of feelings that seem to pull us closer, yet keep us apart. Can we please just embrace this moment?" She spun around with such intensity that I nearly lost my balance. "Caleb, I told you I can't do this right now. In just an hour, I will step into a space where anticipation mingles with the thrill of unspoken yearnings." I examined her features, yearning to uncover any trace of regret, guilt, or even a flicker of anger. Yet, her gaze was filled with irritation, as if I were merely a bothersome distraction in her world. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of my emotions surge within me. "Do you truly feel anything at all?" In that fleeting instant, everything changed. A glimmer of longing danced in her gaze, a moment of uncertainty lingering in the air. Yet, rather than responding, she faced the mirror once more, her fingers delicately fastening her blouse with a sense of longing in the air. A profound ache coiled within me, stirring emotions I dared not confront. This was beyond my wildest dreams. It was a truth that pulsed within me, undeniable and raw. Elena had emotionally distanced herself from our marriage, leaving me alone in the struggle to hold onto what once was. That night, she returned home under the veil of darkness, her heart racing with unspoken longings. As I lingered at the kitchen table, my fingers danced over my phone, yet my mind drifted far from the words on the screen, lost in a haze of unspoken yearnings. My dinner lay abandoned before me, a silent witness to the tumult of my heart. I had prepared 2 plates. Hers remained shrouded in foil, pristine and unblemished. The sound of the front door creaking open and then softly shutting echoed in the stillness, stirring something deep within me. Then, the intoxicating rhythm of her heels echoing against the floor. She entered the room, her eyes briefly meeting mine before drifting to the plate, a silent tension hanging in the air. "You could have embraced the moment sooner." That was the entirety of her words. I'm not apologizing for my tardiness. Today was a challenging day at work. Only that, I tightened my jaw, a storm of feelings brewing within me. "You might have reached out with a message." She let out a soft sigh, her bag slipping from her grasp onto the counter, a moment of vulnerability hanging in the air. I found myself lost in the whirlwind of life. I gazed at her, a fire igniting deep within my soul. "You've been so preoccupied these days." She let out a heavy sigh, her gaze drifting away as if lost in a whirlwind of unspoken feelings. "Caleb, I beg you, not tonight. Not this evening. Never." I observed her as she slipped off her shoes, her fingers pressing against her temples, as if my mere presence was draining her energy. And that's when the realization washed over me. She had lost all traces of love for me. She held a deep-seated resentment towards me. I rose, the chair's legs dragging across the floor with a reluctant protest. My heart raced wildly, yet my thoughts remained eerily calm. I abandoned my untouched plate, a silent testament to my turmoil, as I stepped away from the kitchen's familiar embrace. That was the night I felt an undeniable ache within me, a stirring of emotions that whispered of something forbidden and long buried. And in that moment, a flicker of curiosity ignited within me, prompting the question. Was there someone else lurking in the shadows of my heart? The following morning, I stirred awake to the familiar sound of Elena in the bathroom, a haunting echo of our shared routine. As I lay there, my gaze lingered on the ceiling, lost in thought, before I turned onto my side, my eyes drifting to the void beside me, a haunting reminder of what could have been. The sheets on her side of the bed lay untouched, a testament to the longing that lingered in the air. Sleep had eluded her, a distant memory overshadowed by the weight of her longing. I sat up, my hands gliding over my face, a wave of conflicting emotions washing over me. Rest eluded me completely. My thoughts lingered on the echoes of our exchange from last night, if it could truly be deemed an exchange at all. The awareness enveloped me, heavy and suffocating, as if a secret longing had taken root deep within my chest. Elena was deliberately shutting me out. She was drifting away, each movement infused with a haunting sense of longing. The bathroom door creaked open, revealing her silhouette, a towel clinging to her form, droplets of water cascading down her damp hair. She caught sight of me on the bed, yet her gaze drifted away as she moved purposefully toward the closet once more. I observed her, my heart racing, yearning for her to utter a word, any word that might bridge the distance between us. She held back. Instead, she glided through the motions with an unsettling detachment, selecting garments and adorning herself as if my presence was nothing more than a fleeting shadow. In the depths of my own sanctuary, I felt an overwhelming sense of invisibility, as if the walls themselves were closing in, suffocating the essence of who I truly was. I let my feet touch the floor, rising from the bed with a sense of awakening. "Elena," I spoke softly, my voice unwavering. Her gaze avoided mine, a silent barrier between us. "Today is filled with tasks that stir a sense of urgency within me." I let out a slow breath, stifling the surge of emotions within me. "Can you truly listen to your own words? Your life is filled with endless responsibilities. When did that turn into a reason to push me away entirely?" She finally turned, a fire igniting in her gaze, hands resting defiantly on her hips. "Caleb, I can't indulge in this right now." Once more, it emerged from the shadows. Time slips away, elusive and fleeting. A hollow chuckle escaped my lips. "Indeed, there's no moment left for your husband. There's no room left for the love we once cherished." Yet, there you stood, and I faltered, my own voice caught in a web of longing. Her gaze deepened with a hint of longing. For what reason? An unspoken tension lingered, electrifying the space that separated us. For another soul? I longed to express it. I felt compelled to inquire. Yet, I found myself unprepared for the truth that awaited me. I turned away, a heavy sigh escaping my lips, whispering to myself that it was better to let it go. As she pivoted, slipping into her clothes, the air thickened with unspoken words, and in that fleeting moment, the connection faded into silence. That afternoon, I slipped away from the confines of work, drawn by an irresistible pull towards something hidden and intoxicating. I found myself lost in a whirlwind of feelings, unable to grasp the reason behind it all. An intense, restless energy surged within me, an undeniable force drawing me toward a truth I wasn't sure I was prepared to face. When I returned home, the absence of Elena's car in the driveway stirred a longing within me, a reminder of the unspoken feelings that lingered in the air. I felt a familiar ache within me. She found herself returning home increasingly late, each time cloaked in the familiar veil of her excuse. Encounters, obligations, urgency. I stepped into the house, letting my keys fall onto the table, and in that moment, I truly allowed myself to see everything anew. The house exuded an unsettling perfection, teetering on the edge of something profound. All remnants of our existence had vanished into the shadows. The photos on the wall remained unchanged, yet they resonated with the haunting echoes of a past life, stirring deep, unspoken longings within me. The kitchen counter, once a canvas of our shared chaos, now stood pristine and untouched, echoing a silence that felt both haunting and liberating. There were no traces of her morning ritual, the familiar warmth absent from the air. The remnants of our once shared hurried breakfasts have vanished, leaving only echoes of what was. It felt as though Elena had already slipped away, leaving behind an echo of what once was. I ascended the stairs, pausing in the threshold of our sanctuary. My stomach churned as I caught sight of the meticulously arranged bed, and the vanity that once held her array of perfumes, now diminished to a solitary bottle, the others vanished into thin air. My heart raced with an intensity one couldn't ignore. I ventured into the depths of the closet. Initially, everything seemed perfectly fine, untouched by the shadows of longing that would soon emerge. Yet, as I peered deeper, I uncovered the hidden voids. Elena's side wasn't devoid of presence, yet it felt more ethereal. The hangers now hold only whispers of what once was, a haunting reminder of lost passions and unfulfilled longings. Some of her cherished dresses had vanished, leaving behind a haunting emptiness that stirred something deep within her. A couple of pairs of shoes have vanished, leaving behind a whisper of longing and unfulfilled wishes. I knelt and gently tugged at the bottom drawer, revealing the hidden travel bags she cherished. Longing fills the void. My breath escaped me in a slow, deliberate rhythm. Yet deep within, my heart raced with an intensity one couldn't ignore. She was walking away, a bittersweet ache swelling within her chest. Or perhaps, she had departed in every sense that truly counted. I lingered in that moment, my fingers clutching the drawer's edge, gazing into the void where her belongings once resided. The reality enveloped me, heavy and inescapable. I was unraveling the very essence of my heart. She was fading away before my very eyes. I perched on the edge of the bed, gazing into the open closet, my thoughts swirling in a chaotic dance of unspoken longings. The abandoned garments, the vacant suitcase, everything lay exposed before me. Yet, I found myself lost in a whirlwind of conflicting emotions, unable to fully grasp the depth of it all. How long had she been yearning for this moment? How long had I been lost in the warmth of someone who had already chosen to turn their back on me? A part of me longed to look away, to act as if the empty spaces in her wardrobe and the way our house had transformed into a mere waiting room rather than a sanctuary had gone unnoticed. Yet, a deeper part of my soul, the one that had been yearning and pleading for weeks, would not allow me to release it. I rose, tension coiling within me, and began my quest. Not in a hurried, anxious manner, but with deliberate intent. I searched through the drawers, explored her nightstand, and rummaged through the bathroom cabinets. My hand trembled ever so slightly as I pried them open, one by one, searching for a glimmer of understanding, a whisper of truth that might reveal the secrets hidden within. And then, nestled in the top drawer of her dresser, I discovered it. A delicate envelope, hidden beneath a cascade of neatly arranged scarves, whispers secrets of longing and unspoken yearnings. My name was etched boldly on the surface, a whisper of longing and unspoken truths. My stomach twisted with longing. I withdrew it gently, my fingers tingling with a mix of anticipation and trepidation, and settled back onto the bed. The envelope lay open, a silent invitation to secrets untold. With a fluttering heart, I paused, inhaling deeply as I revealed the crumpled note hidden within. It was a fleeting moment. It was a revelation that stirred the depths of my soul. It was merely a handful of lines, inscribed in Elena's tidy, almost detached handwriting. Caleb, words escape me, so I'll remain silent. I crave a moment to breathe. Don't complicate this any further than it needs to be. I immersed myself in its pages 3 times, yearning for a deeper truth to emerge, yet I found only emptiness. There is a profound absence of feeling. Without remorse, it felt like a stark, emotionless plea for me to fade away from her world without a trace. A deep fissure formed within me. What lies beyond the familiar? A realm of untamed longing and hidden passions awaits, beckoning with whispers of the heart's deepest yearnings. Did she truly seek distance? I had offered her only the vastness of solitude. For weeks I had been yearning. I had sought to grasp the depths of my feelings. I had allowed her the space to explore her thoughts, to navigate the tangled emotions swirling within her mind. And now she was urging me to release her, as if our union were merely a regrettable choice she was eager to abandon. I rose, the letter gripped tightly in my hand, and stepped out of the bedroom. I craved freedom. I wandered through the streets, lost in a tempest of emotions, my mind swirling with unspoken yearnings. It felt like a haunting dream, as if I were a mere spectator to the unraveling of another's existence, distant yet deeply affected. In a moment of nostalgia, I found myself parked outside a quaint diner that held echoes of our early days together, a place where Elena and I once shared stolen glances and whispered dreams. Uncertain of the reasons that led me to that place, I found myself crossing the threshold, drawn in despite the whispers of caution in my mind. The atmosphere felt hauntingly familiar, with its soft, muted glow, worn leather seats whispering stories of the past, and the intoxicating aroma of coffee mingling with the scent of fried delights, evoking a rush of bittersweet memories. I found myself sinking into a booth by the window, instinctively ordering a black coffee from the waitress, lost in a moment of unguarded longing. My hands trembled ever so slightly as I laid Elena's note on the table before me, carefully smoothing its creases. I gazed at it, lost in a whirlwind of longing and unspoken yearnings. Perhaps I ought to have felt rage. Perhaps I ought to have felt shattered inside. Yet, above all, an overwhelming sense of exhaustion enveloped me. Weary from the endless pursuit, weary from the silence that lingered, longing for answers that never arrived, weary from the struggle to hold onto a love that has slipped away. Challenging evening? A whisper drifted from the other side of the table, stirring something deep within. My heart raced as I glanced up, taken aback by the sight of a woman before me, a coffee cup cradled delicately in her hand. She was around my age, her dark hair casually gathered into a loose bun, dressed in a simple sweater and jeans that hinted at an understated allure. A shadow of contemplation crossed my face. Have we crossed paths before? Her smile was tinged with a hint of regret, a silent acknowledgement of the unspoken tension between us. I apologize if that came across as strange. I couldn't help but notice you gazing at that piece of paper for what feels like an eternity, as if its secrets might unravel with your unwavering stare. I exhaled softly, my gaze drifting back to the words penned by Elena. Indeed, something along those lines. With a moment of uncertainty, she finally motioned to the vacant chair opposite me. May I join you in this moment? For a fleeting moment, I nearly turned away. I found myself lost in a world where silence wrapped around me, shielding me from the outside. The thought of engaging with anyone felt like stepping into a realm I wasn't ready to explore. Yet a profound change stirred within me. Perhaps it was the weariness that stirred something deep within. Perhaps it was the realization that, after so long, someone finally saw me, truly saw me, rather than merely passing by as if I were invisible. I acquiesced with a subtle understanding. Absolutely. She slipped into the booth, her heart racing as she placed her coffee down, a moment charged with unspoken longing. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Layla, Caleb. Her gaze lingered on me, a silent understanding passing between us, before she gestured toward the paper. Do you feel like sharing your thoughts? I let out a deep breath, my fingers tangling in my hair as I lost myself in thought. To be completely honest, I'm at a loss for how to begin this journey. Her smile held a hint of longing. Ah, how fortunate for you. I have a knack for truly hearing what others have to say. In that moment, I opened up to a stranger, revealing the haunting tale of how my wife had slipped away from our union long before that fateful note ever appeared. In that moment, I was seen, my essence ignited by a spark that had long been dormant. I can't quite grasp the reason behind my decision to share it all with her. Perhaps it was the weariness, the lingering fatigue that had enveloped me for weeks. Perhaps it was the weight of solitude that had settled upon me for so long. When someone finally gazed into my soul, truly seeing me, I found myself unable to hold back my deepest truths. Layla lingered in silence, her fingers gently cradling the warmth of her coffee cup, absorbing every word that danced in the air around her. She remained silent, allowing the moment to linger. She looked at me with a depth that transcended mere sympathy, as if she understood the unspoken yearnings that lay beneath the surface. She simply allowed me to express myself, and I poured my heart out, I shared with her the story of how Elena once held the title of my closest confidant. For years, we were bound together, entwined in a dance of shared thoughts, our lives intertwined in a way that felt instinctive and profound. I shared with her the memories of our spontaneous adventures, the blissful Sundays spent in each other's company, and the trivial squabbles that somehow always dissolved into joyous laughter. Then I revealed to her the weight of the silence that lingered between us, the chasm between us, the long, restless nights spent gazing at the ceiling, yearning for the woman I adored, who lay just out of reach, yet felt worlds apart. I revealed the note to her. Layla read it, her expression a veil of hidden longing. Then she set it down on the table, her nails dancing softly against the surface, a subtle rhythm echoing her unspoken thoughts. So she simply, "Did this remain with you?" "Not in the open," I whispered. "She remains within those walls, where memories linger and unspoken yearnings intertwine with the air, continuing to navigate the familiar paths of life." But on an emotional level, she departed ages ago, leaving behind echoes of what once was. Layla reclined in her seat, letting out a deep breath. I find it hard to understand individuals like that. I arched an eyebrow, curiosity mingling with a thrill of something unspoken. What do people truly crave? Those who lack the courage to voice their true desires, she remarked, her head shaking in disappointment. If she truly wished to leave, she could have simply spoken her truth rather than subjecting you to this drawn-out, surreal farewell. My eyes fluttered open. It's a feeling that stirs deep within, a longing that defies the boundaries set by reason. The heart aches with a sweet pain, yearning for what it cannot have, igniting a fire that both excites and terrifies. Each moment spent in this secret world is a dance on the edge of what is permissible, a thrilling exploration of emotions that were once buried. The allure of the forbidden pulls at the soul, awakening desires that had long been dormant, leading to a profound and tumultuous journey of self-discovery. Captures the essence of the experience. Her head tilted slightly in agreement, a silent acknowledgement of the unspoken tension that lingered in the air. Indeed, as if she's slipping away. Yet, rather than simply gathering her belongings and leaving, she is navigating this journey in delicate, torturous increments. Each dress lost, a piece of longing unfolds. Each overlooked exchange, a step deeper into the shadows of longing. As if she longs to erase your existence from her world, fearing that she might vanish from yours first. Her words pierced through my defenses, stirring feelings I thought were long buried. That was precisely what Elena had been experiencing. I had been reluctant to face the truth. Layla let out a soft sigh, cradling her coffee cup as she took a delicate sip, lost in a moment of bittersweet reflection. I've encountered this feeling in the past. Sometimes, departures unfold gradually, like whispers of longing that linger in the air. At times, they slip away gradually, fragment by fragment, until their essence has vanished entirely from your existence. And when they finally depart, you glance around and understand that they have carried a piece of you away. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of my emotions pressing down on me. "Are you some kind of therapist or what?" Her lips curled into a knowing smile. "No way. Just a soul who has felt the depths of longing." I gazed at her features, and for the first time, I perceived a depth I had overlooked, the weariness in her eyes, the way she twirled her coffee spoon, lost in thoughts that seemed to drift far from the moment. She had experienced this journey of the heart. What transpired? I inquired before I could hold back my impulses. Layla's eyes met mine for a fleeting moment before she cast her gaze down at her cup, a silent tension hanging in the air between us. For a fleeting moment, I feared her silence would linger, leaving my heart in a tumult of anticipation. Yet, a heavy sigh escaped her lips. "My former partner," she stated with a hint of nostalgia. "One day, he vanished from my life, leaving behind a haunting emptiness. It resonates with the feelings you're experiencing at this moment. We remained under the same roof, continuing to navigate the familiar routines. Yet I could sense it deeply within me. The weight of his absence lingered in the air, a haunting reminder that he was no longer there. He was still searching for the right words to express the depth of his feelings. A shadow crossed my face. What gave you that undeniable certainty? She released a quiet, bittersweet chuckle, tinged with longing. He began to exist in a world where my presence faded into the background. Returning home in the shadows of the night, cloaked in secrets and unspoken yearnings, creating intentions without my input, there came a moment when his nightly farewell faded into silence. That was the moment that stirred something deep within me. You try to push it away from your mind. Yet, when you've shared countless nights together and the familiar words of goodnight fade into silence, each moment feels like a bittersweet farewell. I released a breath, my head inclining in agreement. Indeed, a heavy silence enveloped us, thick with unspoken longing. Not the clumsy sort, but the kind that blossoms when two souls resonate with one another's essence. At last, Layla inclined her head, a spark of something unspoken flickering in her gaze. So, what will your next move be? A deep sigh escaped my lips as I ran my fingers along the nape of my neck, lost in a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. I find myself lost in a whirlwind of feelings, unsure of where to turn. I refuse to be the one who clings to a love that has already slipped away. Yet, I refuse to simply surrender and watch my marriage dissolve without putting up a struggle. Layla's gaze lingered on me, a spark of something unspoken igniting as she leaned closer. Caleb, may I pose a question to you? My gaze fell upon her. What is this? If Elena were to step out that door at this very moment, leaving for good, what fragments of your soul would she carry away with her? The question lingered, thick with unspoken longing. I parted my lips to respond, yet in that moment, uncertainty gripped me, leaving my thoughts tangled and unspoken. For within me, the truth had always lingered, waiting to be acknowledged. She had already crossed a line that should never have been approached. I drove home that night, a lingering ache in my chest, as if a part of me had been left behind in that diner, entwined with unspoken yearnings. It felt as though a piece of my soul had been gently extracted, lingering in that booth opposite Layla. Perhaps it was the reality she compelled me to confront. Perhaps it was the burden of my own suppression finally shattering beneath its relentless strain. In any case, a sense of liberation washed over me, and yet it felt more profound. As I drove into the driveway, I noticed Elena's car nestled in its familiar place, stirring a rush of feelings within me. The porch light flickered softly, illuminating the yard with a haunting glow, as shadows danced in the twilight, whispering secrets of longing and unspoken yearnings. After weeks of certainty, a wave of uncertainty washed over me as I stood at the threshold, my heart racing with a mix of anticipation and trepidation. Uncertainty lingered in the air, a haunting anticipation of what might unfold. A clash of emotions? A clash of hearts? A revelation of hidden truths? Yet, as I crossed the threshold, an enveloping stillness wrapped around me, echoing the unspoken yearnings that lingered in the air. The soft stirrings above beckoned to me, a delicate whisper of fabric brushing against itself, the gentle cadence of drawers sliding in and out, each sound a tantalizing invitation to explore the hidden depths of longing. I placed my keys on the table, ascending with a heartbeat that was both calm and racing, my mind a labyrinth of tangled emotions. As I entered the bedroom, I found Elena by the dresser, her hands delicately folding clothes into a suitcase, a quiet tension hanging in the air. I paused at the threshold, the scene before me striking a deeper chord than I ever anticipated. At first, her ears were closed to my presence. Or perhaps she did, yet chose to embrace the thrill of it all. She was captivated, her movements charged with an intensity that spoke of hidden longings. This was anything but a hasty choice, as if every moment had led to this, a culmination of hidden longing and unspoken dreams. I released a breath, heavy with unspoken longing. Is this truly the end? She paused, her fingers clenching the fabric tightly, a rush of conflicting feelings surging within her. In that moment, she gradually shifted her gaze towards me. Her expression held a mystery, a veil of emotions just beneath the surface. No sorrow, without remorse. It was that familiar, haunting gaze that had become a part of my reality. "I had every intention of sharing this with you," she confessed. I let out a harsh, mirthless chuckle. "When will the heart awaken to the long-buried yearnings that stir within? Was it only after you had departed?" Her silence lingered in the air, heavy with unspoken words. I entered the room, my voice steady yet resolute. "For how long have you been dreaming of this moment?" She swallowed hard, her gaze lingering on the suitcase, a vessel of unspoken longings and hidden truths. For a moment in time, a sensation coiled tightly within my heart. "Did you truly believe I was unworthy of the truth?" She exhaled softly, a whisper of longing escaping her lips. "Caleb, I never intended for things to escalate like this. I felt the weight of hesitation, longing to break free from the constraints of time." I gazed at her, the heaviness of those words enveloping me. "Prolong this experience." It felt as though our marriage was merely a burden she longed to escape from, a fleeting moment she wished to leave behind. I tightened my jaw, a storm of feelings brewing within me. "Did you ever intend to reveal the truth to me?" Her eyes sparkled with a fleeting intensity, a momentary glimpse of something deeper. Yet it was more than sufficient. She lingered in uncertainty, and that was everything I had longed to witness. I exhaled softly, a slow nod escaping my lips. "Isn't it true?" "That was my belief." She averted her gaze, her lips sealing in a silent struggle. I brushed by her, my fingers tangling in my hair, a rush of unspoken feelings swirling within me. My mind was in turmoil. For weeks, even months, I found myself lost in a whirlwind of thoughts, grappling with the haunting question of what had unraveled within me, yearning for the fleeting instant when she slipped away from my grasp. But now, in the quiet of our bedroom, I watched her pack a suitcase, as if I were merely a fleeting moment in her journey, something she was prepared to abandon. A revelation washed over me. She was still there, hidden beneath the layers of time and circumstance. She had released her hold on me ages past, and I had been too lost in my own world to recognize it. In that fleeting silence, the air thickened with unspoken longing. The stillness that enveloped us weighed down on my heart like never before. At last, Elena let out a deep, longing sigh. "When is it acceptable to weave a tale?" I raised my hand, silencing her words. "Stop," I whispered softly. "Whatever you're on the verge of expressing, please hold back." Her lips sealed tight. A veil of mystery cloaked her features. I averted my gaze, clutching the edge of the dresser, my eyes tracing the intricate patterns of the wood grain beneath my fingertips. All hope had faded into the shadows. All hope has faded away. And perhaps, just perhaps, that was perfectly acceptable. I inhaled deeply, letting the air fill my lungs before releasing it slowly. In that moment, silence enveloped me as I made my exit, leaving behind the weight of unspoken feelings. This time, I embraced the unknown, leaving the past behind. I lingered in my car, the world outside fading away, lost in a whirlwind of thoughts that pulled at my heart long after I had stepped away from the familiar confines of home. The engine lay silent, the soft murmur of crickets outside barely breaking the stillness. Yet my mind was a cacophony of tumultuous thoughts. Whispers of the past linger, shadows of dialogues that have lost their significance, inquiries that remain forever unanswered. I ought to have experienced a deeper sensation. Longing, sweet release, yearning. Yet all I experienced was an emptiness within. My fingers tightened around the steering wheel as I gazed vacantly at the dashboard, lost in a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. I found myself lost in the depths of my feelings for Elena, grappling with the complexities of a connection that seemed to unravel before my eyes. A fragile thread woven into the fabric of my heart long before I even acknowledged its existence. With her departure, the air thickened with unspoken words, and I found myself amidst the ruins of what once was, enveloped in a haunting stillness that echoed my unfulfilled longing. Was this truly what she yearned for? To be wiped from her existence so effortlessly that I remain here, frozen in disbelief, as she strides away without a glance back. A part of me yearned to turn back, to seek the truth, to compel her to meet my gaze just once more before she vanished into the shadows forever. Yet, deep down, I understood the truth. Some people slip away quietly, leaving behind a lingering ache that stirs the heart. They cease to belong to you long before they take that final step away. And what of Elena? Her absence lingered like a haunting melody, echoing through the corridors of memory. I exhaled deeply, my fingers trembling slightly as I retrieved my phone from my pocket, my gaze fixed on the glowing screen before me. Not a single call unanswered. No texts. Silence from her end. Naturally, there was nothing there. I found myself lost in the echoes of our past, tracing the lines of our old messages, each word a whisper of what once was. Many of them had lingered for months, waiting to be unearthed. Light exchanges, fleeting mentions of errands, and those rare, tender words from a time when everything felt whole. In that moment, everything shifted. It was the final moment she reached out to me, her words lingering in the air like a whispered secret. It was 3 months prior. "Hey, I may find myself arriving home later than usual. Don't hold your breath for me." That was the moment. That was the final moment she had dared to reach out, even in the faintest whisper of intention. A hollow chuckle escaped my lips as I switched off my phone. All along, she had been whispering secrets, hadn't she? I turned my back on them, unable to confront the feelings that stirred within me. I brushed my fingers through my hair, letting out a deep breath. If she chose to leave, I wouldn't be the one to pursue her. Yet, I refused to remain here, suffocating in the void she had created in her absence. With a trembling hand, I turned the key in the ignition, the engine's roar echoing my racing heart as I eased out of the driveway, a sense of longing stirring within me. Yet I found myself unable to return home, because home had transformed into something unrecognizable. It served as a haunting echo of all that had slipped through my fingers. I returned to that familiar diner, a place steeped in memories and unspoken longings. The soft hum of the neon sign enveloped the night, its glow spilling onto the pavement like a secret yearning to be uncovered. Through the window, I caught glimpses of a few lingering souls, an older man absorbed in the pages of a newspaper, a couple lost in their own world over a shared milkshake, a waitress diligently tending to the counter, each moment steeped in unspoken longing. And then, in the dimly lit corner booth, there she was, Layla. She gazed out the window, her chin cradled in her hand, lost in a world of longing and unspoken yearnings. I found myself drawn to this place, though the reason eluded me. Perhaps it was because she was the first to truly recognize my existence in ages. Perhaps it was the lingering ache of solitude that held me back from returning to that desolate space. Or perhaps it was the first time since everything began that the thought of solitude felt unbearable. As I crossed the threshold, a rush of feelings enveloped me. The soft chime of the bell above the door echoed, stirring something deep within. Layla lifted her gaze. Our gazes intertwined, igniting a spark that felt both exhilarating and forbidden. In that fleeting instant, her gaze lingered on me, filled with unspoken longing. Then she smiled softly, a knowing glimmer in her eyes, as if she grasped the depths of my presence without me uttering a single word. And in that moment, a flicker of relief washed over me, as if the burden I carried had begun to lift ever so slightly. I approached her, my heart racing with a mix of longing and trepidation. And for the first time in ages, a spark ignited within me, propelling me toward uncharted paths. Layla remained silent as I settled into the booth opposite her, the air thick with unspoken tension. Her eyebrow arched slightly, as if she had been waiting for this moment all along. I exhaled slowly, my fingers brushing against my skin, feeling the weight of unspoken longing. Is it strange that I found myself in this place? Her lips curled into a knowing smile. Not quite. The waitress glided over, placing a coffee cup before me, her actions unbidden yet charged with an unspoken understanding. Perhaps she felt a spark of familiarity from our encounter under the veil of secrecy. Perhaps I simply appeared to be the sort of man who craved the warmth of coffee's embrace. In that moment, I whispered my gratitude, my fingers embracing the comforting heat of the drink. Layla's gaze lingered on me, her head tilting slightly, as if searching for something deeper within the silence between us. Is this truly the end? I nodded, a wave of unspoken feelings washing over me. Indeed, her expression held a quiet understanding. What stirs within you? I found myself lost in contemplation. As I stepped out of that house, I anticipated a surge of intense emotions. Perhaps anger, devastation, or even a sense of relief. Yet here I am, nestled in this booth, sipping coffee with someone who was merely a stranger just days prior. And all I can feel is an exhilarating sense of liberation. Not devoid of feeling, whole again, simply liberated. It's as if a long-lost part of me has awakened, and I can finally inhale deeply once more, confessing my truth. Layla's smirk faded, giving way to a deeper contemplation. That's a hopeful indication. I acquiesced, a silent acknowledgement of the unspoken tension that lingered in the air. I feel the same way. As she lifted the cup to her lips, her gaze lingered on me, a silent invitation wrapped in the steam rising from her coffee. What comes next? Wasn't that the true inquiry, after all? For an eternity, my existence had been entwined with Elena, consumed by the pursuit of mending a bond that resisted all attempts at repair. And now that it had ended, now that she was no longer here, I found myself confronted with the need to reflect on my own desires for the first time. The thought was strangely exhilarating. It was thrilling. I let out a breath, heavy with unspoken longing. I find myself lost in a whirlwind of feelings, unsure of where this path leads me. For the first time, a spark of anticipation ignites within me as I embrace the journey of discovery ahead. Layla's smile was a secret, a spark of something deeper, something that stirred her heart in ways she had long forgotten. At last, that resonates deeply. We lingered in that moment, words flowing between us like a secret melody, each syllable charged with an unspoken longing. It's not centered on Elena, not about broken unions. It transcends the pain of lost love, merely a glimpse into existence. Films that stirred our souls, destinations that stirred our hearts and ignited a longing we could never fully embrace. The most reckless choice we ever made during our high school days. In that moment, a wave of joy washed over me, and laughter bubbled up from deep within, breaking the silence that had lingered for far too long. A genuine burst of joy, the kind that resonated deeply, full of longing and unspoken truths. It stirred something deep within me, awakening a sense of vitality I thought I had lost. There came a moment when I found myself no longer consumed by thoughts of Elena. I found myself lost in the echoes of our past, not dwelling on the missteps but rather savoring the intensity of what once was. I found myself lost in thoughts, questioning whether I could have battled more fiercely or if I had overlooked a last opportunity to mend what was broken. I existed in this moment, and it stirred something deep within. As the waitress returned to top off our coffee, Layla caught my eye and offered a sly smile, a spark of something unspoken passing between us. Have you ever wandered into that quaint little bookstore just down the street? I furrowed my brow. Absolutely not. Why must we question the depths of our hearts? She let out a soft sigh, her shoulders rising and falling in a delicate dance of resignation. There exists an entire realm of peculiar, seemingly pointless trivia books. I can sense your attraction to them. I arched an eyebrow, a flicker of intrigue igniting within me. Are you suggesting that I am strange and without value? Her laughter echoed, a sound both joyous and haunting, stirring something deep within. You're awakening to the truth swiftly. I let out a sigh, yet a smile danced on my lips. All right, let's explore this hidden allure together. As we concluded our coffee, leaving a few bills behind, we stepped into the cool embrace of the night, a thrill lingering in the air between us. In that moment, I felt a surge of something new, a thrilling sense of liberation that pulled me forward, away from the shadows of my past. I found myself moving ahead, drawn by an unspoken longing. And perhaps, just perhaps, the most profound chapters of my journey were yet to unfold.